Okay, guys, this is Dustin Murphy. Welcome to another Vital Tradition podcast. I've got Madison Angling Service Guide Noah Humfeld here with me today, and I am excited to talk about multi-species fishing. And specifically, I get to pick a guide's brain, and we're going to get some tips for all you beginners out there from the source himself, the guide, the one and only Noah Humfeld. Noah, how you doing?
I'm doing well, Dustin. Thanks for having me, man. I'm really excited about this. I'm excited about Vital Traditions, and I'm just glad to be a part of it, man. This is cool. And every time I've been on an adventure with you in some way, shape, or form, it's turned into something really cool. So I'm very excited to see where this all ends up going. So, like Madison Angling.
Yeah, awesome, right? Yeah. Let's tell everybody a little bit how Madison Angling got started.
Sure. So I met Dustin through a mutual friend. Dustin was doing this fishing radio fishing report.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And our mutual friend, I actually grew up with his son, and he knew that I fished, and obviously Dustin was doing this radio thing. He's like, "Hey, you should talk to Dustin. He's like some kind of doctor or something, but he does this radio thing." And anyway, we met up one night at Dustin's house when he actually was living right on Lake Monona, and we went ice fishing one night. And by the end of the night, we only went fishing for like 3 hours, maybe.
Yeah.
And by the end of the night, we'd never met each other before, no idea who each other were. And by the end of the evening, we were like, we should start a business.
Yeah.
Like total strangers.
A couple beers and a pizza. I mean, what good idea hasn't come from that?
And a few fish, and it was awesome. So I correct me if I'm wrong in saying it this way, but when Madison Angling started, I don't think we had a super clear-cut answer for what it was when people asked what it was. We were kind of all over the place, right?
Right. Oh yeah, absolutely. I think at the time, I just remember seeing some of the websites for the local bass clubs, and I was just like, man, like I really want more information. I was new to the area, and I couldn't find anything but an old forum that was kind of a little bit head scratching. So I was like, this is like, what century are we living in here, guys? Like, where's the websites?
Right.
Like, what? I mean, I'm not asking like for GPS coordinates here, but like, is there a park or somewhere I could go throw a worm and a bobber just to catch some dang fish? Like,
right.
I mean, there was just nothing. I'm like, okay, so clearly, if we had like half a mind in a website, I think we could do something here.
And that's what ended up happening. It was kind of this like multimedia conglomerate idea that was not only, social media based with, educational videos, but also articles, blog stuff, fishing reports, and then also a tournament schedule for all those, local bass tournaments. We had all of them listed on the website. If somebody wanted to, look at the schedule and see what events were coming up, they could look on our website and go, oh, right there. And we also had guides on there. And organically, people just started reaching out, asking if we ran guide trips, which was kind of weird at first. I think we were both kind of like,
right.
I don't know, are we like qualified to do that? But I mean, it naturally kind of turned into that, which is interesting. Obviously, life happened. You had your wonderful boys and some cool job opportunities, and then because of that, I have you to thank for all of it. So thank you, Dustin.
Oh my gosh, it's been fun, man.
Because of this idea, and you did so much of the legwork getting this thing up and running. I get to go fishing for a living, which is something that not a lot of people get to say, and it's really incredible. And it has its ups and downs. It's definitely not an easy way to make a living, but it's every penny that I don't make, I would gladly give away for the peace of mind of just knowing that, I get to go fishing for a job, which is so cool. So thank you for that. But and it's funny because now Madison Angling is sort of almost coming full circle, where it's coming back to, at least, in one aspect, back to the multimedia end of things, where we got the YouTube channel fired back up. I'm trying to do, at least when we have open water, I'm trying to do weekly videos, and I'm going to be stepping that up here this year. I'm going to be doing hopefully at least one video a week, maybe more.
Okay. Nice.
We'll see. Maybe I want to do more like educational.
That's a tough schedule, man. Getting into it myself. one a week, it seems
It's a
on the
lot.
surface, not a big deal. It's a lot.
It's a lot. Well, you have to
It's a
film
lot.
it. You got to get your content. You got to go out and either catch your fish or what I'm probably going to do more of, especially with it being so stinking cold. And I don't want to go fishing when it's super cold. I'm probably
No.
going to do some more stuff in the garage and talk about specific things, more educational stuff, like up close and personal,
Yeah.
zeroed in on stuff,
Yep.
rather than actually out fishing. So it's going to be a cool mixture of things that are already on the channel, like cool, fun videos of us actually going out and catching fish, and then also some educational stuff too, which is the entire basis for what Madison Angling is. It was always meant to be educational. We want to
Right.
teach people. We
A
want people
resource,
to
right?
go.
It was
Yeah,
supposed to be the number one fishing resource in Madison, Wisconsin.
that's right, and it's done very well. I'm really pleased to say that it really has. It's humbling because people recognize what we've done, and it's people,
It's pretty
people
cool.
I don't know, people that are twice our age that are like, hey, you're that Madison Angling guy, and I'm like,
It's pretty crazy.
how do you know that? It's really cool. It's really neat, and I'm just so lucky to have this opportunity. I just can't even put it into words, but yeah, it's really cool, and that's the whole premise for how this really started, was teaching people, right? And which is
Absolutely.
what you guys are doing with Vital Traditions as well.
That's what we're trying to do, right? Yeah, we just want to get more people into it because it's a ton of fun.
Yeah.
And we just love teaching people. And
Yeah.
this seems like a great way. I mean, obviously, COVID had some stuff to do with this interaction, but this is just a great way to reach a lot of people really quickly, especially if you can connect on some fundamentals that people getting into it would need to know anyway off the water, so they can get some stuff together before they hit your boat and barrage you with crazy questions, which is fine, but then you get to maximize a little bit more time fishing if you can knock some of this stuff off in the garage or on your kitchen table, or your breakfast bar. You can get some of this gear related tutorial education done before you even hit the water.
Yeah, kind of shorten the learning curve a little bit.
Exactly.
And what's cool is when you can take people out that have actually watched some of this stuff or read it, and they apply it to what we're doing, and it's really cool. And that's really where guiding, at least for me, kind of got kickstarted, because I used to do a lot of tournament fishing. I did the college bass stuff when I was at UW Platteville. That transitioned into making some terrible financial decisions while in college and fishing some professional walleye tournaments, which I wouldn't trade for the world. I made some amazing friends and got some incredible experience, learned some great things. But, part of that was working with sponsors. And some of the things I was doing was going to, different stores like Bass Pro or Cabela's or Gander, and giving seminars, talking, kind of showcasing sponsor products. And so often I would find myself saying, I really wish I could just take you guys out in the boat with me so I could show you exactly what I'm talking about.
Right.
And boom, here we are. Now that's exactly what it is. That's what I do. And it's really cool. And I would encourage, and not just for, obviously selfish reasons, me being a guide, but I would encourage people to book a guide. If you want to really get dialed, especially on a particular body of water, if you're newer to fishing or you're getting back into fishing, like a lot of people this year, especially with the pandemic.
Oh yeah.
There was over 100,000 more fishing licenses sold in Wisconsin this year. And a lot of those were people that were getting back into fishing. Life happened, kids happened, jobs happened, but now they have the time and they want to get back into it. And fortunately, Madison Angling Guide Service had a great year as a result of that. And I got a lot of people I had customers that went out and bought boats this year, their first boats. I helped them rig their boats, which was really fun and exciting.
That's great.
Help them pick out equipment, get them on fish. We went fishing in my boat a few times, gave them spots and bites and times of the year to be here and there and everywhere. And that's really cool. And that's what this whole thing is about. I'm not real secretive about a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
If you want to know where to go and how to catch fish, we're going to go do that. And the whole point is I want people to learn and have fun, because it's so cool. And we're so lucky to have all these resources here, and more people should take advantage of them.
It's really absolutely incredible. I still to this day sing like a canary that I moved to Madison originally as an anesthesia student in February of 2010. And I don't know, for those who don't know or don't remember, that was the year of like the blizzard that they hadn't had in a long time. And so it was like parking tickets, tow your vehicle because you parked in the wrong spot because the snow was so high you couldn't see the no parking sign. It was just a cluster to get around the town. But I remember rolling into the first time ever into this town that I've ever laid eyes on it. And it was a village on the ice. And I just was like, I've never seen anything like this ever. And I'm like in love. And this is like everybody I talked to at work and around the town was like, oh, I'm so sorry you're here at this time. I promise it's not like this normally. I'm like, what are you talking about? This is amazing. Like,
yeah,
you're telling me I can fish I can fish in the snow? Sweet. Let's,
right.
Maybe I don't want to live downtown, but let's do this. This sounds awesome. Because right. I got my car towed like 4 times the first month I lived here because I had never been in a city where they had one-way streets and B, they had like no parking sides of streets for snow removal. Yeah. Being in Northern Ohio, we had snow, plenty of it, but it was mostly country roads. And it was just like, well, just don't be in the way of the plow. It was like a common sense rule, like get out of the way of the plow and you're fine. But yeah, dude, I was like, I thought my car got stolen one morning before I was going into work. And I was like late getting in for a day on rotation. And I was like, I legitimately called Madison, the police department. I'm like, my car's gone, like no idea what happened to it. And they're like, yeah, I think you just got like a parking ticket and they towed it around the corner because you were in a snow lane or something. And I'm like, okay, well, that's unfortunate. But yeah, it was a weird month, but the fishing was fantastic. And I kind of never looked back. I just started fishing and it fixed all those other things it's a country boy had to get used to.
It's easy to overlook a lot of that stuff because I grew up basically in Monona, right? Not too far.
Oh yeah.
From you guys. My parents actually still live there, and I always kind of hated Madison growing up because I'm just not a big fan of cities. I'm definitely a redneck at heart. And I definitely let my redneck fly when I went to Platteville, and ever since I haven't looked back. And I could say the same about you now, and I brag about you all the time.
Oh yeah,
because Dustin didn't really grow up. You didn't really grow up fishing, or I wouldn't say fishing, but hunting especially. That was
correct. Really, yeah, I fished a little bit, but I definitely didn't hunt at all. I didn't hunt until I got here.
And now you're just a killer, and I love it.
It's another side of the channel for sure. It's pretty fun.
But anyway, we're here to talk about fishing tonight, or whenever you guys are listening to this. But so no, Madison's really incredible in that sense. You're in downtown Madison. There's no doubt you're in a metro area, but as soon as you're on the water, it feels like a completely different world. We have just incredible fishing. The pan fishing is absolutely phenomenal.
It's crazy good.
An amazing up and coming muskie fishery. And I shouldn't say up and coming because it's always been good.
Yeah, we've known it. The locals have known it, but it might be up and coming to other states.
It's about to get really, really, really good, guys. Yeah. And I don't want to dive too much into that, but let's just say there's a lot of 50-inch fish coming out of the Madison chain here. It's my biggest fish ever. And I was lucky enough, and if you guys are bored and you want to check out the Madison Angling YouTube channel, there's a video of a 53 1/4 by 23 Madison Leech Lake strain muskie that my buddy Jim caught on topwater, and that was one of 7 fish in one day.
That was an awesome video, man. It was awesome video.
Thank you. And I can't believe we got it on video. That's the biggest Madison muskie ever on video, and to my knowledge, ever legitimately recorded on a bump board, verified. It was that big. And that's a great sign of things to come, guys. We have incredible resources here. Capital City chapter of Muskies Inc., in collaboration with the Wisconsin DNR, have been very aggressively managing the muskie fishery here in Madison for the last about 15 years now. There's been 2 different strains of fish. There's Leech Lake, Minnesota fish, which is that guy back there. That's my 51 1/4. And then that 53 by 23 was also a Leech Lake fish. So really cool that, watching these different genetic strains of fish kind of cohabitate and really kind of learn how genetics have an impact on growth rates, especially in a system like Madison, is really incredible. But that's enough about muskies. There's so many other things too. Walleyes, it's incredible walleye fishing.
Yeah, there's a bass tournament every friggin' weekend as long as the season was open. Now it might be more because it's catch and release. What is it? Last year they approved that for all year round catch and release.
All year. Yeah. So you can bass fish all year, which is an interesting challenge because I haven't ever done a lot of bass fishing in 40-degree water. But hey, I'm up for a challenge.
Yeah,
But like you mentioned, not even just weekends. I mean, during the weekdays,
true.
there's bass leagues, there's a muskie league, there's talk of a potential walleye league. I mean,
Nice.
there's so many different things you can do. So, and the really cool thing is all of these groups, whether it's muskie league, bass league, um, they're the nicest people. You can get right in, pay your entry fee, whatever that is, and maybe go fish with somebody. If you know somebody that has a boat that does these and has an open spot, go fish with them. It's a great way to learn
Absolutely.
and meet people and kind of just immerse yourself in the culture.
That's exactly what I did. That was the
Yeah,
recipe for me. I showed
yeah,
up. I knew nobody. I knew I wanted to fish. I just started reaching out online and found a bass club. I
yep,
joined it. I went out with Larry. He took me out and just kind of as a trial, like if you like what you're seeing,
yeah.
here's the membership dues, here's where we meet. And
And then you
I
went
just
out.
remember I was like, my eyes were wide open and I was excited, but it was twofold. Super excited to be fishing in a new body of water, but we were
Yeah.
fishing. I remember that trip, we were fishing offshore and it's not even close to like, how some people define offshore as like outside of one cast length of the shore. Dude, we
Yeah.
were like, you could drive a
Middle of the lake.
freighter between the shore where we were fishing. I'm like,
Yep.
dude, the shore's that way, bro. Like, what are we going to catch out here? And he just starts piling footballs over his shoulder back at me in the back of him. I'm like, oh, so this is different. Okay. So there's fish out here. And I
Yeah.
had never fished offshore. And I'm looking like, okay, I've got some stuff to learn. And I
Yeah.
kind of never looked back. It
No.
was pretty incredible. People were so nice.
Yeah.
But like you said, the resources are incredible here. You got the clubs are even more connected now and more accessible than when I got here 10 years ago.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And you've got like you said, Capital City Muskies. There's other, there's your Hara Fishing Club. There's tons of clubs, so you're not like limited by species. There's
No.
Facebook groups now. I mean, there is just so much information that's accessible for this city, and it's really incredible. But like you said, get out and book a guide trip. That was
Yeah.
how I learned muskies. I had never seen
Mhm.
a muskie in person, never heard about fishing them until I moved here. Went a
Yeah.
couple trips with Jeff Hansen,
Yep.
and I was like, oh, well, this is pretty cool.
This
Probably
is
going to
pretty
have to
sweet.
figure this out.
Yeah.
And to your point, you guys have been so fantastic. The guides that I've been with, specifically in the state of Wisconsin, and I'm sure they're mostly good people around the world, but
Oh, yeah.
it's not about catching fish 100% of the time. You get out
Right.
there and you're constantly learning. I'm constantly learning. You're constantly teaching. It's a
Hey, I'm learning
100%
too.
experience, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's not like you take a break when we're not catching fish and everybody's just
Nope.
twiddling their thumbs. You're explaining the graphs, your hummingbirds, you're explaining contours and why we're fishing here versus why we're fishing there.
Yep.
What kind of structure are we over? Why are we there?
And
The seasonality stuff, all
yeah.
that stuff.
And to that point, I will add, on days when maybe it's not a very good bite, which obviously happens, it's fishing. You're not always going to go out and smash them. And I'm very fortunate in that you can usually turn those trips into something educational. And, coming from more of a tournament fishing background and then transitioning into guiding, I almost look at every guide trip as a mini fishing tournament.
Right.
I have this long to get us on these fish. Go. What do we need to do? And if things aren't going the way that I anticipated them to go, as we make these moves, I explain to my customers, this is my thought process, this is why this isn't working, so we need to switch it up. We're going to go to this spot. Whether it's water temperature, water clarity, bottom composition, structure, wind direction, I try to explain that stuff. And even on a bad trip, most of the time we can still at least get something out of it. And generally
Right.
speaking, that doesn't happen often. It's either a weather issue or or we're musky fishing.
I was going to say it's probably species specific too, right?
It can be. And I mean, you have to go into muskies with a very open mind.
Yeah, all bets are off, right?
Yeah, there's no sure thing. If you go out there and say we're gonna catch them, you're not even gonna see one. And if you go out there with really low expectations, you could pop a 50. So
Right.
you just it is what it is. You know what you're signing up for. And I make sure I make it very clear to everybody when they book a muskie trip, if they've never muskie fished before, we could go out and catch 10 of them, or we could go out and not see one. we could fish all day and catch one. And if we catch one, we had an amazing day. If we catch more than one, we had an incredible day. Tell all your friends and quit muskie fishing.
Yeah.
Or
don't go back.
or we could go out and never see one. And that's just the reality of it. But no, it's all about teaching. And that's the biggest thing. It's, it's an investment, it's not necessarily, cheap to go out with a fishing guide, but your takeaway from all of that should be more than just fish. You should be able to take things that you learned, apply them yourself, and go out and be successful on your own using what you learned.
Absolutely. And I think that's part of the educational experience that, we're trying to do here with Vital Tradition, and you're trying to do with your guide services. You're trying to create value for 100% of that trip, not just when you're catching fish. And part of that value is only gained if you, as the customer, understand that the trip is more than catching fish. And most guides are open to teaching you things that you can then apply in your own boat. I think there's the stigma out there occasionally that you run into where you'll get guys that think it's like, taboo to like ask why we're on the spot, or, go fish the spot again or something like that. And it's like, and maybe in some scenarios, if you're literally just mining somebody for GPS coordinates, that's probably not a great move.
No. And to kind of build off of that, I will say I love questions, especially when I'm, giving a talk or something, giving a seminar, but especially on guide trips, I want people to ask questions. And I usually tell people that, if you have a question about what we're doing, why we're here, please ask. I want to help you understand why I'm thinking the way I am, why we're doing things the way we are. But, to that point where, there are people that will occasionally go out and try to basically get spots. And most people are pretty upfront about that, though, which is really cool, at least in my experience. And the customers that I've worked with, and they'll say, I'm new to the area. I kind of just want to learn a couple lakes and a couple spots, where I can go and catch fish. And, and if they're open about it, I'm pretty open about stuff too. And obviously there's certain spots where I'm not going to take people, because if I take people, and I'm pretty good at vetting people, and most of these people that are upfront about it, like, hey, I just want to learn some spots, they're really cool and they're not going to burn spots. And I share a lot of this stuff with them. But you can usually tell pretty quickly if someone's just out there to burn spots and will maybe not go to the super juicy stuff.
Well, that's the nice thing is you have so many options in Madison that if you have that card and you want to play it, you can. But if somebody just wants to learn the area, there are so many community spots that actually you can catch the fish of a lifetime on in this system. You don't need a top secret spot to go and catch the fish of a lifetime. You can literally watch YouTube videos, and you can look at a contour map, and you can find DNR data all for free. It's all out there on the internet right now, and you can go catch fish.
Just look around.
Nothing's stopping you.
If there's a giant crowd of boats casting at something, I would probably cast there too. So, unless it's a break wall. I was one of 9 boats on the spot where I caught that fish a couple years ago. 9 boats. I was one of 9. And I got on the outside edge of everybody, and my third cast, bam, got that thing. So
great.
But that's a community spot. It's not a secret. So, but that's, that's what's really cool. And about it, it's just so cool. I can't even put into words how lucky we are to have what we have here. So it's just
really incredible. All right, let's jump right in to some recommendations, your recommendations specifically as a guide. So all this time, all these hours you've spent in the boat with just probably the gamut of skill levels of anglers and age too. Go through probably your like number one beginner setup that you would recommend for like the main species. So maybe like a panfish setup, and what you would fish, bass, walleye, and then toothy, maybe like a pike or muskie, kind of like if you were like just like tomorrow's my first day, what do I do?
Sure. Well, I guess we'll start with the panfish. And one thing I'll add right now, as far as the skill level goes, and the age, a lot of parents, especially when they're getting their younger kids into fishing, when they're really young, a spin casting combo, push the button and, Snoopy pull, Great option. If your kids are a little bit older, they're 8, 9, 10 years old. I have found that actually a spinning reel is a great option. I think
That's
that
what I do with my boys. They're 4 years
and
old and they
yeah,
pick that stuff up real fast.
they pick it up very quickly and they figure it out.
Yeah.
They figure out the do's and don'ts very quickly, and it ups the cool factor. And I will add that. So when I was a kid growing up around Madison fishing, all of my friends who got spinning reels, the first ones to get spinning reels, they were the cool guys.
Oh, really?
They were living the life, man. Oh yeah. It was always keeping up with the Jones situation with all my buddies who had the coolest stuff. And then of course that transitioned into a bait caster, and I got the first bait caster, so I was super cool. Yeah, how'd that work out?
Until you learn how to use it, right?
Yeah, that's the trick, is actually being able to cast it.
Oh, those buggers, cool, man.
Yeah. But anyway, so that being said, if you have kids in that 6, 7, 8, 9-year-old year range, I almost said year class, like we're talking about fish. You can tell where my head's at.
The yearlings.
Don't be afraid to get them into a spinning combo. It's great. You can cast super far, and it's a great transition into growing as an angler. You can continue to use this equipment and not feel like it's old school or it's a kid's rod. This rod's going to last so much longer. So
it's a great point, man. I think you're really doing them a service to start there instead of or at least upgrade there as soon as you can, because like you said, it's something they can carry forward the rest of their lives. They'll always have an application for a spinning reel until they die. Like it'll never go out of style.
Exactly. So that's kind of my thought on it. Why buy 2 rods when you can just buy one and they can fish it forever? And obviously if they get into fishing, they'll upgrade, but I guarantee you they'll keep that first one. I still have mine, which is pretty cool. I
do too, man. And you know what? Today we'd call that an ice fishing rod that has a Mickey Mouse on it.
Nice. I love it.
Do you ever see kids using ice fishing rods in open water out of your boat just from a logistics standpoint for the kid or ergonomics?
So no, but I sometimes fish ice rods out of the boat because I'm doing it.
Why not?
So my buddy Tristan, if you guys ever watch any of the Madison Angling YouTube videos, my buddy Tristan, Riverway Angling Guide Service, he is famous for catching ridiculous fish on a crappy, I think it's an Abu ice rod. It's like a 30-inch, like a walleye rod with like 30-pound braid, and he's caught 2 25-pound class brown trout on Lake Michigan with it. He caught 50-inch sturgeon on it this fall. He's been catching lake trout all winter up north with it. I mean, it's ridiculous. So getting off topic here, of course. That being said, ice rods, they're a lot of fun, but you can't cast with them. You're basically just vertical fishing.
Which for a 4-year-old might be okay.
Which would be fine. Yeah, especially with like a deep panfish bite, like a weed edge thing or suspended thing.
Right.
That's when I usually do it. It's just fun, and it's funny when everyone's fishing with an adequate panfish rod, which we'll get into here in a minute. But I'll pull out a little 24-inch ultralight,
the dinky
noodle rod, and start banging on 8, 9-inch bluegills with it over the side of the boat. It's hilarious. So, but to that end, if somebody was looking to get into a panfish rod, and something that could handle bass as well, if you were to hook something bigger, inevitably you will. My suggestion would be to not go too light. I think that's a mistake a lot of people make. They go, super ultralight, like a 5.5-foot rod, a dinky little thing, which is suited for certain applications like trout fishing. If you're getting into tight cover, small creeks, little spring creeks, and you need to make tight casts, something like that's going to work really well. But you're kind of limiting yourself as far as being able to cast. So a lot of times, especially if people don't own a boat, they're obviously going to fish from shore. So casting range is a big deal. So I certainly wouldn't sell myself short on length. So I would actually suggest like a 6.5-foot spinning rod, something in the medium light power range.
Okay.
You could even go up to a medium. A lot of my panfish rods are actually medium power. So basically a bass rod. But if you're going panfish specific, I would go with a little bit lighter, like a medium light, 6 to 6.5 foot, a size 20 or 25 spinning reel, and 6-pound monofilament, and you're good to go. You don't have to get braid. You don't have to do anything crazy.
Okay.
But that's obviously a great all around rod for a lot of things. You can even go walleye.
Yeah.
And then, the next tier, I guess, would be kind of our intermediate rod, our bass, walleye,
Mm-hmm.
general purpose. And one of the trends I've noticed the last handful of years is longer. A lot of people are going to considerably longer rods. There's musky rods that are 10 feet long now.
Really?
Once upon a time, they were 5-foot pool cues, and now there's musky rods that are
Yeah.
10 feet long, which is crazy. And I will
Mm.
say, they're sweet.
Yeah, I bet.
But oh yeah, you can cast a mile, dude. It's
Right.
so cool. But anyway, getting into this intermediate rod, this bass, walleye, maybe a light pike rod, a 6.5 to 7 foot medium power is perfect. I'm personally kind of partial to a slightly heavier rod, so a lot of times I'm fishing like a medium heavy. That's
Sure.
just my style, my preference. But yeah, and again, stick with the spinning reel. I wouldn't mess around with a bait caster until we
Yeah.
really start getting into the big fish. And I'll kind of get into reasons for that as we get there. But a 7-foot medium power, an 8-pound monofilament or a 10-pound mono, or this is when I would start considering braided lines. I'm not a big fan of braided line for panfish. I just don't think it's necessary in most applications, but getting into bass and walleyes where having some sensitivity is kind of important.
Mm-hmm.
Also, your ability to set the hook fairly hard. The non-stretch line is a great option. So going to, a 12 to 15 pound braided line, even upwards of a 20-pound braided line would also be appropriate for that. And if you're worried about line visibility, you can always tie in a section of fluorocarbon for like a leader and
Mm-hmm.
don't have to worry about it. And I'll be honest with you, most walleye, most bass don't really care.
Yeah.
There's often if I, wear out my leader throughout the day, I'll just tie direct to the braid and just catch just as many fish as I was with a leader. So, kind of your general purpose rod that can handle pretty much anything. That would be my suggestion. 7-foot medium power spinning rod, going up to probably about a size 30 spinning reel on that,
Okay.
25 to 30. A little bit more line capacity, obviously, with a lighter rod with thinner line. You don't need a ton of spool capacity, but you're getting into stuff that's a little heavier, a little bit larger diameter line. About a size 30 spinning reel is a great option. And then, obviously we're saving the biggest, baddest for last. If you were to get into, more specific, pike and muskie fishing, I will say that generally speaking, muskie fishing, you want to go fairly heavy in a lot of cases, probably more so than pike fishing. And the simple reason is, you look at these muskie setups with the reels and the rods, and they're huge. They're super beefy. You're throwing 80 to 100-pound braided line. And obviously you don't need that to reel in a fish. I've landed some really miraculous muskies in my life and pike on ridiculously light line, and you don't have to have that to catch the fish. The reason you're using heavy gear is kind of twofold. One is to get the fish to the boat quickly, because the longer it's out there thrashing, the greater the chance you're going to lose the fish. And the other thing is just the repeated abuse of throwing big lures over and over and over again. And as your line and your rod and your reel start to fatigue over time, it's more forgiving. You're not going to have things just break. By the time it's going to break, it's time to start replacing things, and you'll know when it's time. So you don't have to have, a 10-foot super extra crazy heavy with 150-pound braid and a Tranx 500 to go muskie fishing. You just don't need that. But what I would suggest, and again, the trend nowadays is going longer with rods. I would suggest an 8.5 foot to a 9-foot medium heavy muskie rod. And I would go with a muskie specific rod. And I think that's where some people get mixed up, is you can go and buy a medium heavy rod, but it's a medium heavy bass rod. There's a big difference between a medium heavy bass rod and a medium heavy muskie rod.
Yeah.
So search for a muskie specific rod. And the reason I'm saying medium heavy is because it would also make a great pike rod. It's not too heavy. You can throw smaller baits with it, more suited for pike, but you also have the ability to throw slightly bigger baits, for muskies. And generally speaking, you don't have to throw gigantic lures to catch a muskie. In fact, I prefer not to. Most of the time, I'm throwing relatively small stuff compared to a lot of other people. And part of that is matching the forage base. Madison is primarily a panfish forage base, so the baits don't make any sense if they're, bigger than 8, 9, 10 inches, and they'll eat a bigger bait, but why would you beat yourself up throwing a bigger bait if you don't have to? So,
Right.
so for, kind of an intro musky rod, I would go with an 8.5 to maybe 9 foot, medium heavy. Of course, it depends on the rod manufacturer as well.
Sure. Yep.
Every rod's gonna have a different feel, different action to it. But a medium heavy to maybe a heavy at the most. 80-pound braid is a safe bet, whether it's Power Pro, Suffix, High Seas, whatever you like. They're all awesome. There's varying opinions on a lot of that stuff, but again,
for sure,
everybody has opinions on things. They're all great. And what's amazing about the technology we have now is even the crappiest fishing equipment we have available to us is better than the best stuff that we had 30 years ago.
Yep.
So there's really no such thing as a super crap product. If you're going to put a little money into it, you're going to get a quality product.
Right.
And then as far as the reel goes, that's where we're going to get into the bait casters. You could certainly get away with a spinning reel in certain, what am I trying to say here? Kind of lost my train of thought there.
So like maybe some presentations you could use a spinning rod and not sacrifice some fish catching efficiency.
The efficiency is the big part, and also line twist. That's another issue.
Oh, sure. Okay.
With braided lines is also line twist. The other thing is a lot of times spinning rods have a much more moderate action to them. So sometimes you'll have a little more of a dull hook set, which isn't a terrible thing. And if you have younger people that are getting into musky fishing that maybe aren't comfortable with a bait casting reel, that's a great option. That's a fantastic option.
That's what I was going to ask you. Are you kind of like, so it sounds like the general recommendation would be bait caster if you can swing it, but where, I guess, are there scenarios as far as how beginner you are? Would you say like, okay, so if you want a musky fish, you probably should try something like you could an absolute beginner, I've never fished before in my life, go musky fishing and pick up a bait caster? Probably. But is that like a recommendation, or would you stair step like, okay, you can musky fish, but maybe sacrifice some of the fishing efficiency of the spinning reel, to compensate for somebody who's never literally fished before?
Sure. No, that's a great question. That's a great scenario, because that's a scenario I face often.
Right.
Most of the time, by about an hour into the guide trip, they're casting better than I am with a bait caster. And these are generally people who've never picked up a bait caster in their lives. And that includes kids too. So to that end, I would even add that learning to cast with a bait caster is almost easier with heavier gear than it is with light gear. You're throwing big, heavy baits with heavy line. It's easy to set the magnetic brakes and the spool tension and stuff to make
That's a great point.
Blow up. I've actually found that it's so much easier. If I go from musky fishing to bass fishing, I blow up my bass reel every other cast. Musky fishing, I don't. And I think that's actually a really great way to learn how to use a bait caster. And I wish that's how I learned how to use a bait caster, because when I finally got into musky fishing a little bit later on in life, it was so easy. I was like, well, I've been missing out. I don't have to fight the wind. I'm not blowing the reel up all the time. I don't have mono blowing up in my spool. This is awesome. So I would actually, it's so nice, man. And I wish I had learned to cast a big bait caster before I learned to cast a little one. But so that being said, again, that's my personal opinion. Yeah. And I would suggest if you're serious about trying to invest some time into it, you don't have to go crazy. You don't have to go out and buy a $400 reel. You don't have to do that. There's a lot of very budget friendly reels that will work, at least for a beginner standpoint. But I would suggest trying the bait caster, and if you just can't get it right, either get in touch with somebody who fishes a lot, musky fishes a lot, go with a guide, or you could go the spinning rod route as well. It's just not quite as efficient. It's a little bit more cumbersome to fish with, and especially with boat side maneuvers, than say a bait caster. And generally speaking, you're going to have a little bit of a difficult time finding a spinning reel that's going to hold up to the abuse, unless you're looking into saltwater reels, where you're going to be dropping some pretty serious money. You might as well buy a bait caster. And that's, again, just my experience, I'm sure. And you can go out with a bass sized spinning reel with 20-pound braid and go catch a muskie. You can do that.
It's been done, but
it's not a great idea. If you're specifically targeting them, make sure you're using adequate equipment. It's safer for the fish. It's safer for you. But yeah, I would suggest a bait caster, and you don't have to go crazy. Like I said, there's so many options out there. The Okuma Komodo is a great one. Shimano Tranks is a great one. And you can find them used. That's again, social media being incredible.
Right.
Facebook Marketplace, Muskie Flea Market, Muskie buy, sell, trade, whatever.
Yep.
You just put an ad in there and say, hey, I'm looking for a muskie reel. This is my budget. What do you have? And boom, wait 20 minutes and you'll have a bunch of options. So use those sites to your advantage as well. And you don't have to just take, my suggestions on these rods. Become a part of these Facebook groups. Ask these questions, especially, one lake to another, one state to another. People's tactics are going to vary tremendously. So just because it works on Lake Monona for me doesn't mean it's going to work for a crappie lake down in Tennessee, or North Carolina for that matter. So be active in these things, ask questions, and you're going to meet a lot of people and you're going to get a lot of great information.
Absolutely. And certainly reach out first and foremost to us. Reach out to Noah at Madison Angling. Reach out to me at Vital Tradition. If I can answer it, if Noah can answer it, we'll answer it. We'll email you right back. And if we don't, we will forward you on to somebody who can answer the question. We'll get the information to you. That's the beauty of this stuff. When you're learning, you're getting into it. And that's why we're doing this. We want you to learn. We want you to enjoy the resource and pass on the passion, because it's amazing.
We want you to ask these questions. That's one of my favorite things to do, is give people suggestions on how to do stuff. And it definitely gives, some feeling, at least for me, of validation that, people trust what I have to say, which is really, really, really cool. So, but yeah, don't ever feel like you're imposing by asking us questions, because that's what we're here for. That's our job. That's why we're doing this. This is why you're listening to this right now, probably.
Reach out if you got questions.
Please. We'll answer them to the best of our ability. And like Dustin said, if we can't, we'll get somebody that can. So that's simple as it gets.
All right, man, I got to ask you a hard question, and I'm excited to ask it. All right. So you broke down your recommendation per species for a beginner. Mm-hmm. If I came to you as a beginner and said, I'm only going to buy one setup, but I want to be able to fish for as much as possible, period. And I'm not going to give you any more details than that.
Okay.
What would be your ultimate fishing setup for a beginner without having a species specific boundary?
That's pretty simple, actually, believe it or not. I would go with the 6.6 medium power spinning rod, probably like a size 30 spinning reel. And I would probably go braid. Braid's going to cover a lot more bases than a mono or a fluoro, because you can always add a leader to braided line if you're worried about visibility. So yeah, I'd probably go with 12 to 15 pound braid on a 6.6 medium power spinning rod. That's actually a really easy one.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
And speaking from experience, I've caught almost everything you can imagine on that exact same rod, whether it's Great Lakes trout. I'm talking Great Lakes trout, like 20 plus pound brown trout, king salmon, northern pike, muskies, walleyes, bass, panfish, even sturgeon, catfish, you name it. That will get you by. It's going to be better suited for certain things than others, but it will work. And I think if you were going to pick one, that's what I would do. 6.5 foot.
Right.
If you're feeling frisky, you could go 7 foot. But I'd say 6.5 foot medium power, size 30 spinning reel, and 12 to 15 pound braided line. Can't go wrong.
All right. Now the extra credit question is, does a 1 versus 2 piece matter on that 6.6 medium rod?
You are asking a 1-piece rod snob. So,
well, what if I have a Ford Focus and I can't get it in there?
There's nothing wrong with a 2-piece rod. I'm just really snobby about it. Personally, I prefer a 1-piece rod. That's just me. And it's years and years and years of holding on to a rod and reel to really notice a difference between a 1-piece and a 2-piece. And a lot of times you can't tell the difference.
You can when it flies apart is when you can tell the difference.
When it comes apart, start to crack, and You can tell then it's a two-piece. But no, for logistics sake, there's no reason to not have a two-piece rod, especially if you're somewhat limited in your traveling capabilities. I mean, even in my truck, I drive a full-size pickup, and traveling around with muskie rods is a pain, especially when they're getting longer and longer. Even with telescopic muskie rods, it can be a pain. So by all means, a two-piece rod, I think, is a great option. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to hear that question, and it's very legitimate. You'll hear it like literally every day, depending on what forum you're in the conventional world. But then you have to ask yourself, well, what if it was 4 pieces? And then if you fly fish it all, you're like, oh, they're all 4 pieces.
They're all 4 pieces.
So yeah, it doesn't matter.
No, and you're doing so much more casting with a fly rod. There's so much more going on, and they don't fly apart. At least they should.
Right. So it's more the manufacturer and the type of rod.
And if you're a snob like me,
well, that too. Yeah,
I'm a one-piece rod snob. I actually just got a new rod the other day, and it's a 2-piece, and I specifically wanted a 1-piece. I'm like, crap. It's a fantastic.
It just bugs you a little bit.
A little, but I don't care because the thing is fantastic, and I'm so excited to use it. But yeah, don't. That comes down to personal preference. It's the same as like line color. What color line should I get? I don't know what you like. I've used lime green.
Whatever's cheapest and gets the job done.
Yeah. Don't worry about stuff like that. It's what fits your budget at the time.
Right.
Obviously don't go above and beyond for something that you don't need to do, at least not that time and place. As you get more into stuff, you get a little more dialed, you can refine your equipment a little bit, but yeah, don't get hung up on that stuff.
Right. And that's the beauty of when you're just starting off and you really want that. Like, I feel like that's not really just fishing. Like I've come across that. So I'm kind of a serial hobbyist, and almost everything I get into, that's the number one question that people getting into it ask, at least on forums and in person. Even it's like, everybody's looking for that one answer. That's like, what is the shortest, quickest way that I can spend the least amount of money, have the most amount of fun, and do everything with one thing? Like, what's the answer?
And sometimes there's a very clear-cut, definitive answer, and other times there aren't. So
very
take
true.
everything that I said there with a grain of salt, because just because that would be my ideal one trick wonder doesn't mean it's going to fit everybody's situation. But for around here, I think it would work great.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I'm right there with you. I think I've put the most fish in a boat in my life with some sort of combination of a medium action 6 to 6 foot rod that has a spinning reel attached to it. I mean, it's just so applicable in so many situations. Saltwater, freshwater, north, south, it does not matter. It's awesome.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
So, well, what do you got fun coming up this year? Anything you want to tell us about?
Ooh, well, I actually just got off of a Zoom meeting with a new sponsor this year, a new company I'm working with, Okuma Fishing USA.
Nice.
I'm very excited about that. And it's cool because I've been fortunate enough to work with a lot of companies over, a lot of years, going on, about 12 years now. I've worked with a lot of different companies. And in this first, it was a Zoom meeting, of course, just in this, hour of getting to know these people, it felt like a family. It was one of the most wild feelings, talking to a big company. Okuma's a big company. Guys.
Yeah, international, right?
They're huge. Yeah.
That's awesome.
They're right up there with Daiwa, Shimano. I mean, they're big. And I've worked with other big companies like that, and I'm not going to name names, but you just kind of feel like a cog in the wheel. But with these guys, and almost an hour that I spent, just listening to them and getting to throw a few words in there, as we went along, felt very valued. And we haven't even done anything yet, which is the crazy thing, which is just amazing. So very excited about that opportunity. If you guys follow my social stuff, the Madison Angling stuff, you're going to see a lot of really awesome Okuma stuff in there. So very excited to work with a really cool company like Okuma. So if you guys are watching, thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm very excited to work with you guys, and we're going to do some awesome things here in 2021 and hopefully beyond. So that's very exciting. I also, if anybody's interested in getting into muskie fishing, maybe you're a beginner or you don't even know where to start. Coming up here in March is the Capital City chapter of Muskies Inc. Muskie School. That's going to be on Zoom, which is kind of lame, but of course, COVID, what can you
Better
do?
than nothing, man. I
Better
mean,
than nothing.
this time
That's
of
right.
year, you're just itching to get fishing, and it's
Yep,
better than nothing.
exactly. And I think it's going to go really, really well considering that, we used to have it at the Wanakee High School. It was a big list of different classes. I want to say it was upwards of 25 different classes. You can choose 3 throughout the day, catered lunch, awesome door prizes, and some really incredible people giving up some really, really awesome information. And last year, of course, it ended up getting canceled, unfortunately. But this year, it's going to be online. So there's going to be 3 different weekends, March 20th, March 27th, and April 3rd. And each of those, you can basically pick one of, there's going to be 3, what am I trying to say? 3 classes per Saturday. And there's going to be 9 classes total. I'm going to be giving my talk, which has been pretty popular the last few years. It's called "Why You're Not Catching More Muskies," and that probably sounds like really narcissistic and kind of
awesome.
Who are you? But no, and it's basically just touching on little things, subtle differences that I think make a big difference, especially fishing on pressured water like the Madison Channel. There's a lot of fishing pressure and
bananas in the boat.
No bananas in the boat.
Don't show up on time. Important things like that.
Important stuff like that. That's right. But no, it's really informative. I give up a lot of stuff, locations, tactics, little things that make a big difference, at least that I've noticed make a big difference. And of course, a little shameless self-promotion there, but there's some awesome other stuff. If you're into trolling or want to learn about trolling, there's a trolling class. There's a fly fishing class. There's a beginner's class. So there's all kinds of stuff. It covers the whole range of information. So
what about trolling with a fly rod? Is that a class yet?
No, but if somebody wanted to teach that, I think it would probably be you. And
it's been done.
Yeah, it has been done. And I couldn't believe it when I got that picture and you told me what you did. But yeah. So
have twins and put them in the boat with you when they're 6 months old, and then you kind of just lose track of space and time, and things happen very quickly.
Yeah. So Dustin sent me a picture. I was out riding my bike with my my now fiance. Actually, just got engaged recently.
Congratulations!
Thank you. So we were out riding bikes, and I get this picture from Dustin holding this leecher, this muskie, with a fly rod in his mouth, and I'm like, what? And I don't know if I called you or texted you, and you're like, yeah, I was trolling out the back of the pontoon.
Oh, dude, a muskie. It was crazy, man. We're out just having a fun. I mean, at the time, like I said, we lived on Lake Monona, and I had a pontoon, and I had twin boys. They were 6 months old. It was a nice day, and they were in between like the nap feed poop cycle, and we had a window to get out in their little bouncer seats in the pontoon, with my wife and my dog, and we literally had just like a floating hour, like no joke. We're just over in a bay, just floating, enjoying being on the water and outside. And of course, I always have fishing stuff on me when I'm on the water, because you just never know. You got to be efficient with your time. I learned that pretty early on as a young parent. But we're going back, they start crying and breaking down, and they're like, oh, wheels coming off the wagon. And then I was like, all right, this seems like a good time to just head back. So just start motoring back. I'm like, well, again, I want to be efficient, so we're trolling back, and all I have is this fly rod that I was kind of farting around with. Like, okay, well, we'll just hang this off the side of the boat, and I'll just hold on to it while I drive. And sure enough, my arm just about comes out of my socket behind me. And I'm like, what the heck did I just get caught? I thought for sure I was caught on. I was going over some boulders at the time. I'm like, oh man, I didn't think I was going to hit him with the fly rod, but nope. I was just in the prop wash, and a 36-inch leecher just inhaled the fly. It was awesome. I was like, oh my God, I actually got a muskie. And like my wife's flipping out. I'm like, that's so awesome. I'm like, well, clearly I got to land it myself. So I turn the boat into neutral. She's handling the crying twins. The dog is going crazy because she doesn't know what a muskie is and that there's a fish on. And like, I'm kind of losing my mind a little bit because I just got a muskie on the fly, doing something crazy. I'm leaning over the back of a pontoon with a giant muskie net in one hand, a fly rod in the other, and trying to put the two pieces of the puzzle together while the twins are breaking down. It was total chaos, but it happened. And my wife was kind enough to ignore the crying babies to take a picture of it, and it's now on the back of the book. It was nuts, man. We were out literally an hour, and like, we got to go back. The twins are breaking down.
Sounds hilarious, man. I still can't believe that happened. That's just one of the dumbest, luckiest, most awesome
just luck.
things.
Just luck.
So cool. So cool.
But
so
hey,
to that end,
you got to catch fish. You got to be on the water, man. Like, you can't catch them from the couch. Get out.
No,
No,
exactly. No, you're exactly right. So, to that end, nobody is teaching the fly rod trolling class, but if there's ever a demand for it, I know the guy to teach that.
You know a guy, eh?
I do. But yeah, as far as other exciting things go, can't think of anything.
Yeah. It's going to be a good year, man. I'm excited to see what you're up to. I'm hoping you're going to bounce around maybe to the big pond a little bit, maybe back here.
Yep. There's going to be some big water runs this year for sure. I didn't do as much as I wanted to last year with COVID, obviously limiting my travel. And unfortunately, I actually had COVID early December. So I got my antibodies the old fashioned way.
Well, luckily you're all right and everything kind of shaked out okay.
Everything worked out for the best. No real negative things, at least nothing short term, of course, that we know about. So I'm very lucky in that sense. But anyway, so part of me being somewhat ignorant is like, well, I can go do things now. Well, no, you still need to be careful. I've read many times it's about 3 months or so that you're good, and then beyond that you could potentially get it again. So keeping safety in mind and obviously keeping other people safe. I do want to do some more big water runs this year than I did last year, but obviously need to be more careful and more thoughtful about the logistics of how to do it. But yeah, Green Bay, definitely got to do some spring walleye stuff.
Yeah, you got to do Green Bay, maybe Fox River at all, Lake Winnebago.
I may be branching out a little bit, and that's all I'm going to say about that. The Fox River is a fantastic place, but last year was just unbelievably packed. You could walk across the river.
I've heard that's bad some years.
Well, and COVID. That was the big reason why it was
so bad. Yeah, I bet. Everybody's not going anywhere.
Everybody's fishing. Yeah. So it was pretty wild. So obviously avoiding people and just avoiding the crowds, fishing.
Sure.
I made one run up there one night, trolling, and that was enough for me. So I may be branching out, looking at some other tributaries, other places other people don't really explore. So I'm just going to leave it at that. But but no, obviously lots of fun adventures around, southern Wisconsin. And I don't know what else is in store, which is the fun thing, but I'm more excited than these potential, trips. I'm more excited to get the boat out and start guiding open water here. It'll be soon, hopefully. I mean, right now there's no end in sight. It's probably 0 degrees out right now. Saturday, it's going to be a low of like -18 or something.
It's going to be cold.
It sucks. So I'm hoping, very cautiously optimistic, like second week in March, maybe I'll be able to get the boat out and go to the river. I don't know, but that's my goal. That's my hope.
I'm crossing my fingers for you, man, because I'm with you. I love ice fishing, but you get kind of over the hump of the season and you're jonesing for open water.
Yeah, and I'm hoping it's here sooner than it probably will be, but no, I'm just really excited to get back on the water, get more people out, and make more memories. That's really
what it's about, man. It's what it's about.
You're. I can guarantee you, when you're on your way out someday, you're gonna sit there and think about the cool things you did, and the cool fish you caught, and the cool places you went. You're not gonna think about how much money you have sitting in the bank. It's memories, and that's really, not only, as a guide, am I trying to sell, education, and I'm trying to, create experiences for people, somebody's first fish, somebody's first muskie, like the expression on their face, just the emotions in that moment are just so cool. And it makes all of the crappy days so much better, just thinking about how incredible that was, just amazing. So, but yeah, I mean, to that end, there's so many things that, we as, outdoors people get to experience that so many people don't get to experience, things we get to see, feel. I'm I'm hoping more people get involved with it, especially hunting, and obviously we're talking fishing, but
yeah.
also,
but we'll do another episode on hunting. Don't worry.
Yeah. We'll get into that. But, I think, given the current state of the world, I think this is probably the best opportunity there ever has been for people to get involved in this stuff. If you want to get into fishing or back into fishing or into hunting, obviously there's limitations with, safety in mind, but now has never been a better time, other than maybe having a hard time getting equipment. That's the one thing
I was going to say. You're a little limited now, but
that's an issue. We did talk about that in our Okuma meeting tonight. We're all trying to get equipment for the season, and it's a little slower than normal because, obviously demand is so high for stuff. So, but I mean, there's never been a better time than now to get into this stuff. And any way that we can help, whether it's me, it's Dustin, anybody,
just reach out wherever you're at, find somebody, and if you don't know anybody, that's when we can help, because you've got people out there that are trying to help everybody that they can. And that's what we're about. Like, I grew up not hunting. And now that I want to get into it and moving to a new city, I didn't have a mentor. I'm learning everything on my own. Noah was kind enough to show me around for the hunting things, but I'm just using that as an example. I mean, there's plenty of people that come into fishing the same way. You didn't do it as a kid. Your family doesn't do it. You're trying to pick it up as an adult on your own. And you may not have a resource to reach out to. It may not be as simple as that. So use your online resources, use our websites, use YouTube. And please reach out. You can shoot us an email. That's probably the easiest way directly. info@vitaltradition.com or info@madisonangling.com. And if we can't answer, we'll find somebody who can. It's plain and simple.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's no shortage of people, like us that want to help. So don't feel like you have to ask us, but certainly feel welcome to. You can ask just about anybody, and anybody who is willing to take the time to do, what we're doing right now, they're likely going to be a great resource to reach out to. So that's the whole point of this. We want to share the things that we love with everybody else. We want you guys to be a part of it because it's so cool. And, with welcome arms, open arms, we're welcoming you into this crazy world, man. It's really cool, except for muskies. Let's not go muskie fishing. If you're not a muskie fisherman, don't start.
Yeah, don't do that to yourself. Just pick up golf or something.
It'll destroy your soul. It's bad. Yeah, if you think golf is expensive, muskie fishing's 5 times worse, and you come out of it without a soul. So,
fish.
Or fish. Yeah, or if you go really, really well, you go out and pop a giant, but then you should just be done. No more.
Right. Hang it up.
And then go golfing.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
Well, man, it's been super fun chatting with you. I think we're going to wrap it up here. And why don't you really quick tell everybody where they can find you if they're in Madison, they're going to book a trip.
Sure. Probably the easiest way to get a hold of me is, like you mentioned before, our email, info@madisonangling.com. You can find all of our info on guide trips, rates, sponsors, all that stuff on our website, madisonangling.com. If you just Google Madison, Wisconsin fishing, I'm pretty sure we're still number 1. That's all.
I think we're 3 now. There's the city took over. Yeah. So MadisonCity.com, the 2 travel sites from City of Madison are right? 1 and 2. And maybe it's a daily thing.
Are they like advertising, advertisement links or whatever? Or are they
not sure. I think it's like they have technically a blog, but it's it's the City of Madison. And then there's MadisonMom.com. We're going to go ahead and give them a free plug. They're actually sitting at 5 and 6 on the first page. And they actually have an ice fishing article that somebody wrote. Props to them for showing up on the old Madison, Wisconsin fishing Google search.
You're right. City of Madison.
Yeah.
City of Madison, or visit Madison, City of Madison, then Madison Angling, then Madison Angling again.
Yeah, you're 3 and 4. You're 3 and 4. You're there. You're definitely showing up without having to scroll. So people will be able to find you.
Yeah. So madisonangling.com, info@madisonangling.com, and check us out on Facebook. I'm working on making more posts regularly on Facebook. I don't do it enough. I know I don't do it enough. But you can always reach out via our Facebook page, Madison Angling Guide Service, and also Instagram. Noah Humfeld Fishing is my Instagram handle. You can always reach out there as well. And then, of course, the Madison Angling YouTube channel, working feverishly to keep videos happening, putting out some good content, trying to grow things, and provide people with, something educational and something fun to watch. So be sure to go check that out if you're interested. There's a couple old gems on there from the Noah and Dustin days, the early days of Madison Angling. In fact, one of them has like 200 something thousand views, and it's like the crustiest plater board explanation video, but it is pretty good.
It's working clearly. So
it's relevant information. It's good. I don't know, being where I am now with video stuff, I'm like, we could do it so much better now.
But it's done. It's done.
You gotta let it ride, man. Just let the classics roll. Don't mess with a good thing.
That's right.
But yeah, no, any of those ways to reach out, and you can always call too. My phone number is on the Facebook page and the website as well. So you can shoot me a text, you can call me. Make sure you leave a message. When people call and they don't leave a message, I don't know who it is and I don't know what you want. So I'm probably not going to call you back because I get so many spam calls. So make sure you leave a message. But yeah, lots of ways to get a hold of me. And of course, Dustin too. And if you want to get a hold of Dustin and you can't for some reason, get a hold of me and I'll get a hold of Dustin.
Sounds good. And and just for everybody listening, you're guiding full time all year round, correct? Ice, open water, you name it. Reach out.
Ice and open water. Yep. Right now, our openings are fairly limited as far as ice fishing goes, especially with the really cold weather. We've deferred a lot of trips to warmer weather, potentially warmer weather. So we're kind of playing things by ear right now. But yeah, it's multi-species and it's all year long. So we do run around a little bit depending on where we need to go to catch fish. But yeah, it's all year, any species, and we'll go get them.
So cool, man. Well, thanks for dropping in. It was great talking. And you guys heard the man. If you're looking to get out, learn some things, and enjoy some trophy class fishing, hit up Madison Angling Guide Service, madisonangling.com. Noah, thanks so much for coming on. We'll have to do this again sometime.
Thanks, Dustin, dude. I was looking forward to this for a long time, and we definitely have to do this again. I'm really excited about it.
All right, man. Till next time. We'll see you out on the water, maybe.
Yep. Take care, dude. Thanks.